Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Dallas County Board of Commissioners voting session. Today is Thursday, May the 19th, 2022. Welcome to those that are with us in person as well as those that are with us online. We'll start out with a roll call. And you can see we're all here. I'd ask everyone to please stand for brief invocation and pledge. Would bow your heads, please. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day and for the many blessings of life. We ask that you give us knowledge and wisdom to carry out the business of this county. Anything that we do will give you the honor and glory in Christ's name. We do ask and pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Are there any announcements? Any announcements?
Just a reminder that Tuesday is the day to go vote, so get out and vote.
And then, as a reminder to the board, especially next Friday, I think up at Amicalola Falls, they're going to do a little groundbreaking. And
Oh, yes.
And so you've all been invited to that as well. You might get to hold a shovel. So, and wear a hard hat. Yeah. So
What's that date? The 27th?
27th, next week from tomorrow. I think you should have gotten that information. So,
I did. I got it on my calendar.
and so they are asking if you're coming to please let them know.
Oh, okay.
And so they'll know how many people to plan for. And I told them I would tell you today so that you know to let them know. All right. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. First up, we have the minutes of the work session held on May 5th, 2022. Any additions or deletions? Motions.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. Next up, we have the minutes of the voting session held on May 5th, 2022. Any additions or deletions? Motions.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Dooley,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. Next up, we have the approval of the agenda. Don't have any changes to the agenda. Is there a motion?
So
Motion to approve
moved,
the agenda.
approved.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield, seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And the agenda is approved 4-0. No one signed up for public comment in this section.
No, sir.
We'll move on to zoning. First up, want to go over the rules first before we actually get into it. These are the rules we will follow. Planning director will present the application and recommendation of the planning commission. Then we will hear from the applicant. Then I'll open the hearing. We'll hear from those who are in favor of the application. Then we'll hear from those who are opposed to the application. Each person wishing to speak will be allotted 3 minutes per our zoning guidelines. Anyone who speaks will need to sign in and give us your name and address. Also, if anyone has donated $250 or more to any candidate, you will need to fill out a form stating so. So those are the rules that we will abide by during these zoning hearings. So first up, we have ZA 2118 Benjamin Smith request to rezone tax map parcel 102-040 from RSR residential sub-rural to RA residential agriculture and is requesting a special use 21-05. He requests a special use permit for 102-040 for a temporary sawmill in a RA residential agricultural zoned parcel. Ms. Sharon.
Good evening. This is a downzoning for the applicant. Benjamin Smith has some property and he wishes to do some timbering to build an accessory structure and then to eventually build his home. I have been advised that he is running late and he may not make it to this public hearing, but Planning Commission recommended approval.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Sharon?
How many acres is this? 5 acres.
It was 4 point something. He was purchasing some more to make it 5.
No, okay.
And I think so.
He gonna cut all the timber off of that?
No, Not to my knowledge, no.
Had he already started? Did I see a picture where he'd already?
There's some logs that are there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some logs at the entry of the property, and he may have started and then came in to see us months ago. It has taken him longer than it should have, basically, to purchase a little bit more property.
Now,
then
this is
get it-
actually a 2021.
Yeah,
Was it
and then
in
he-
Was this one in August? Yeah.
Yeah, we had to
August.
pull it. He had a closing pending or whatever happened. He didn't quite get that 5 acres in time for planning commission. And then we waited, then approved the minor plats, and now he has the full 5 acres. He had to wait for surveys and the process just took that long to get on. And
Has he got the whole 5 acres?
He
now?
does, he does.
Well, does he even have to do this?
He does until we
Yes.
change the
Down
code.
zone. Yeah, down
He's
zone.
down
Oh,
on it for what it
since it's
is.
downside. Oh, okay.
In my understanding, the purpose of the sawmill from, I did talk to the guy, and it's just to create wood for his barn and his own structures.
Yep.
He told me.
That's what it stated in his request.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So the applicant is not here at the moment. So what we'll do then is we'll move on to the hearing portion of it. I'll open the hearing at this time. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Hearing none, I'll close that hearing. Pleasure of the board, you want to let's take up the zoning request first.
Mhm.
So what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
So motion to approve ZA 2118 by Commissioner Fawcett,
Mhm.
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. We'll move on to the special use permit. Special use permit requesting for a temporary sawmill on the newly rezoned residential agricultural property.
Make a motion to approve the special use permit.
Motion by Commissioner Dooley,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion.
How, was there a time limit on that?
Our-
Like a year?
Our
or
ordinance says a year.
something? Okay, I knew I.
Can we entertain adding, when we had this before, we added in a time frame so it couldn't be used at night? Just to be consistent with what we've done in the past, can we add in that? Would you be willing
Is that
to?
not in there?
I think it was
That
in
was
there.
in there.
It's in there.
It's
somewhere,
already in
wasn't
there.
it?
Is it? Okay. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
The
Okay,
applicant-
okay. All right,
yeah,
I
the
missed it
applicant
then.
has a copy of the conditions and he,
Good.
planning commission.
What is the
Had him
time?
acknowledge the
It's from-
conditions.
And it's different on weekends and.
Yeah.
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 7.
Starts on
I think
page
it follows
27.
the noise ordinance.
Okay.
is what
Follows
we-
the
Follows
noise
the ordinance.
Okay.
So
All right, good.
Commissioner, just make sure you move to approve it with the conditions as
Yeah.
recommended.
I need to amend my
You're just-
motion to do that. We got them first.
Yes, please.
Okay. Amend my motion to approve it with the conditions presented.
Okay. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
All right, so Commissioner Dooley made the amended motion and then Commissioner Satterfield the second. We'll take up the amendment first. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, please vote on the amendment. That's approved 4-0, and now we'll take up the original motion. Already have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the original motion that now includes the amendment? Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. We'll move on to ZA 22-04, Fox Creek Properties Incorporated, request to rezone tax map parcel 112-109, 104-065, 112-019, 112-013, 113-057-002, and 112-0-018 from RA Residential Agriculture, RPC Residential Plan Community, CHB Commercial Highway Business, CPCD Commercial Plan Community Development, and COI Commercial Office Institutional to Mixed-Use Village for the purpose of developing single-family, multifamily, retail, commercial, office, and light industrial uses, Georgia 400 and Lumpkin Campground Road. Ms. Sharon.
Yes, good evening. I have a very quick presentation. As you know, the surrounding development pattern and the use requested gave the staff grounds to support the applicant's rezoning for mixed-use village with design as a pedestrian-friendly mixed use with a great amount of protection for the Etowah River corridor. I have a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you, Chris. We've been working with the applicant for several months. He's been working with the neighbors. He's been editing the charrette book as we've gone along, but there is still some work to be done to get to the point of the master plan. You have the large concept plan, which is very detailed for a concept plan. But like I said, we still have a little bit more work to get the master plan, which is the second step in this process. You're familiar with the property, of course, and as you can see, if you look real close where the Catholic College started development years ago, there's some previous disturbance in there and a little road network. That was approved back in 2000 with not much success. If I'm doing this correctly. Oh, sorry, wrong button. Next. There it is. This is the future. This is the official zoning map from 2009. Back in 2009, I chose this because it's graphically one of our better maps. Back in 2009, there was a full review of all the zoning resolutions and the zoning maps on file. And this was presented to the then Board of County Commissioners to confirm the zoning previous to 09. A lot of staff time spent in that, and you can see the roadway network of the Catholic College, the commercial highway business along the right of way, and then the other mixed zonings of that large piece of property. This is what we call Exhibit B. That's the concept plan. Exhibit A is the full legal description of 518 acres. There was some question regarding the total acreage. We have a meets and bounds description that was part of the application that does include the full acreage as described. Just to remind everybody, this is also in the North 400 Georgia corridor. Lower left is the frontage of the property. And as you know, the Georgia 400 is where we should be directing all our commercial, industrial, and quasi civic uses, as well as some residential. So as far as the warehouse, multifamily, and the mixed use within the mixed use village, it's in an appropriate location. One of the mixed use village requirements is a center area of gathering, quote, such the village. This is part of their plan. It's called the Grand Green. It's to be an acre in size and will serve not just the small community of residential uses, but also the entire community. We envision there being some out of community users. We have requested, and the applicant has agreed to not only designate the open space, but he's committed to a commitment of 200 acres of open space kept in perpetuity. And that is part of, I did provide some draft conditions or stipulations that have worked out basically for my own benefit too. So I didn't have to stand here if you were to move forward with the application trying to walk through conditions. So that is one of the conditions we presented to the applicant, and he was conducive to it as far as commitment of 200 acres of edible property forever in open space.
And just be left like it is
In
forever and
perpetuity.
ever and ever.
Yes, yes, we put those conditions in writing, and the applicant said he could live with them, basically.
Is it mainly trees or?
It would be what you see there, more or less. Yeah, that, again, that's the concept plan. The residential part, of course, I can't speak to that, their engineer will. But the engineer, the lots, excuse me, the lots that you see getting closer to the river may not be that close. There's still a lot of engineering that the applicant has to do in the future after you see the master plan. But I think one of the criteria for approving a mixed use village was a preservation of open space and the preservation of our environmental amenities.
What percent's required?
30% is required.
And this is how much?
There,
50
this
something?
is like 40%.
40%.
And they're also then, of course, going to have the pocket parks, the 1 acre of the green area, the 1 acre in the village. And then each pod, each residential pod will have at least 5% of recreation area, whether it's a tot lot, tennis court, swing set. So there'll be not only fair amount of amenities for the people that live there in that village community, there'll also be open space preservation and open space for community use. So it's truly a mix, and it should draw in, as our language in the comp plan for a mixed-use village, should draw in some percentage of visitors, but also with the commercial and industrial use, keep intact. 25% of the people that live there will most likely work on site. So the concept plan so far in staff's position has met all the bullets for a mixed-use village.
So this 200 acres, is one big piece of 200 acres of trees? Or is it scattered?
It should not be scattered because they're showing us in their concept plan. You can look, there's a large copy up there and a small copy in the concept plan. You can see where they're not conceptually planning on going, and how that configures property wise would be up to the final designer. One of the other elements of a mixed-use village is, and the mixed-use village language in our comprehensive plan is connectivity, and they are showing bicycles, pedestrian, of course, golf cart, and then also what they did in negotiations with the neighbor, they will also be providing access to the Brights Way community. So they're not only going to attract from the highway and from their own community, but the local community through a locked gate, basically, will be able to participate in the activities as well as shopping and perhaps employment. This is just some of the architectural elements they provided for us, again, in consideration of the Georgia Highway, Georgia 400 overlay. We've got office professional, the majority of brick, and their elevations are consistent, mixed use, architectural precedents, everything you'd like to see. Multifamily materials, also the brick and the cedar. We're told a Class A multifamily living there, which would go with the mixed use village. This is a sample of the attached housing, and what we're seeing there is like at least 40 to 50% brick facade. The light industrial flex, that is still a little bit of an unknown. They're looking at the 250,000 square feet or more, but if it's individual users, that's, based on what the market will call at the time. So again, that's a master plan project, but this is also a sample, a single family home, one of the smaller variations. And the next one is one of their largest, if not their largest, again with the brick. And then this is their access for Savannah Trace, not only making the fire department meeting the fire code as far as a secondary emergency access, but it also provides access to the community from that plat. I believe that is it. And I did take the liberty with assistance from Paul Fricke in drafting conditions. If you move forward with this, the only thing I would add that would certainly tie in with a list of conditions would be that the development of each village must be phased so that within the first phases, both residential and non-residential spaces are provided at the same time.
Questions for Sharon?
Mr. Chairman, I got a question.
Good.
So what if what's its own now? What percentage, because if somebody come in right now, didn't bring anything to the planning zone and bring it to us, bring y'all just set of plans, what percentage could they do right now without even be having a hearing on it?
They could do 100% of the commercial that they're requesting.
Mhm.
The residential, the multifamily, I didn't calculate apartments. They could do an apartment on the COI. We'd have to look at, it's still 6 units per acre on all the COI property, not so much on the, I think it's RPC. That would be up to 3 units per acre. And then the RA as it sits would be, 1 unit per 5. The RA as it sits are 32 lots. Of course, somebody would definitely come in and have that rezoned to Res 2, Res 3. But as it sits, the old plan, and I don't like to return to the old plan,
Right.
but you almost have to. The property was smaller, but the activity proposed was more intense,
More intense.
and a hotel.
The hotel there, daycare, things like that.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
they could probably do 80 to 90, I mean, probably 75 to 80% of it.
Yep.
Without even being here to here.
Yeah, or more.
Or
It's,
more.
it's like comparing a apple to a pear. You can see it as a planner and with the ITE traffic study. I compared the traffic study from 2000 to the traffic study, what was presented, although they are doing less than they studied for. And the activity, the intensity was greater in the 2000 plan.
So the intensity on the site was it greater 2000 it is now.
Yes,
It's less than 2 per acre now, correct?
yes, it's I think it's 1.88, 1.9,
And more green space.
more green space.
So
A
we're
lot more
close-
green
lot
space.
more closer
Yeah,
to 40 something percent.
And a lot more predictability because
The CPCD portion of it, commercial plan, community development. It's also has the commercial base as well as the housing piece with that as well.
yes, yeah.
So if you look at that with the COI and that you could do in the CPCD as well, which falls in that 6 per acre category.
Correct.
So, okay. Any other questions for Ms. Sharon? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is the applicant present? Come on up. And tell us what you would like to do. Flip a coin.
Oh, we're gonna have a fuss, I'm afraid.
Have a what?
Fuss or
Since it's only on the
fight.
top.
See which one of y'all wants to do.
My name's Bill Evans. I'm president of Fox Creek Properties. Between the planning commission and this commission, we started doing our engineering on this project. And we may have made a mistake earlier in asking people what they wanted. And we tried to incorporate everything we possibly could into it. And when we actually came up with the numbers, we decided we had overstepped our ability. We can do everything we said we can do. We just can't do it when we said. We can do the industrial and we can make that work. And hopefully, well, not hopefully, there seems to be a very big demand for that. And it's something the county wants. One thing people might not realize is there's very little industrial in the 400 corridor for flex space. And there's a great demand for it. There is in every other corridor of Atlanta except the 400 corridor. So if we can provide that, we feel very good about it. And the chamber and the business community has been very helpful in us doing so. We would like to go on and build the commercial at the same time we build the residential, but after looking at the numbers, that just doesn't work, doesn't fly. We would like to be able to do, we don't argue with the planning department at all on the uses. It's the order in which it's done that may cause a problem. So we can do the residential, we can do the apartments, we can do the industrial, but there just isn't a market for the commercial right now. And we just can't, I could tell you I was going to do it, but I'm not going to do that. So we would like, if we can, to get a 60-day postponement to try to come up with some better figures. But if you don't want to do that, we're prepared to go on and continue the presentation. Whatever y'all want.
Go ahead with the presentation because we have a scheduled hearing and we're going to have the hearing. Go ahead with the presentation. And the board can take that up afterwards if they desire.
Okay, my name is Jim Bowersox, representing Fox Creek with Bill. As you know, this property is, we're calling it Etowah Bluffs. Let's see, does this work? Is this supposed to work?
I can do it for you. You can just sort of give me a head nod when you need to.
Okay.
Well, it ought to work.
It should work.
And it's been working. hasn't it?
David, can you check it?
Oh, okay.
Can you check it, David?
I got it. Let's turn it on.
Okay.
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 Yeah. Yeah, the first slide was just pretty much talking about Fox Creek and their commitment to the project. We've had a lot of questions about the economic development of the project and we've had since the planning commission, we postponed the planning commission for 30 days because they wanted us to go back and have another community meeting, which we did. That was, in our view, very successful. It was over 100 people showed up. And we spent over 3 hours trying to answer all the questions we could. And obviously, we're not going to make everybody happy, but we thought we answered most of the questions that night and got some good feedback to go forward with some of our other answers. Some of this came up as far as the economic development and just in round numbers, some of the people were asking about impact fees and taxes and things of that nature. So we ran some numbers that are part of the package that it shows that with the impact fees, it's over and water and sewer with impact fees are over $10 million that the project would create for the county, as well as about 1.6 in revenue on an annual basis for the county for tax reasons. And again, when you look at the scale of residential and commercial and industrial, everybody's right in the fact that the residential stands, if it stood alone, does not support itself. We get that. So by adding the industrial and some of the other components we're adding to the mixed use project, that's what kind of helps support and pay for the residential portion of the project. Some of these slides basically just go through that and explain it more in detail as far as how the numbers are, how we get the numbers. We use basically the county's website to come up with some of the tax factors that we use to figure those numbers. Obviously, the location of the project is 518 acres. It's located at the corner of 400 and Lumpkin Campground and bordered by Grant Road on the northern side and the Etowah River on the western side. It's just a larger picture of how it lays in those boundaries. And again, the purpose of this project is for the mixed use is to bring to the county, a viable mixed use project that will bring some of the disciplines that are missing in the county, like Bill was saying. That I just got an email today, actually, that we're working on a contract with the Development Authority to bring them into the project to work with us on the industrial part of the project. That contract is right now just being reviewed by the attorneys. Should have it finalized, hopefully by next week. So the Development Authority would be involved with our industrial developers that we brought to the table that have experience in the industrial side from the last time we presented. So between those two entities, and we've put those two entities together to work as a team to be able to bring the right kind of industrial use to the project. We talked about before the present zoning. I think the director went over what it was zoned for presently and the difference in the mixed use zoning that we're talking about today. This is just a picture of what it was zoned for originally, which was the Catholic College and the different student facilities. Again, we've talked about how the zoning, and we've got a list here and a chart of how this zoning follows the conditions, and we've read the conditions that the planning staff has put together, and we're okay with all the conditions that they've recommended. This is a kind of a depiction of, we got a percentages of what each discipline takes up in the project. You can see that residential is only about 17% of the total project. There's close to 50% of green space in this project. It's a little over 49%, over 200 acres of the 518 acres. Up in the corner there, you'll see just a kind of a dark blue, kind of a square where we're recommending that we'll donate 3.5 acres to the county for some type of community type usage, whatever they see fit. Some of these are hard to see from there, but these are just more land use breakdowns of the project, of how the land use. And again, the bigger thing you'll see is how much green space is on the lower right-hand corner of the total project.
That said 69%, but that's not right.
Excuse me?
That's everything.
That's,
Playgrounds.
that's with the park areas and stuff.
parks,
Oh, okay, not just green space. It said amenities. Yeah, okay.
communities.
And one of the conditions was that all the different components like the single family detached, the multifamily, the active adult, all those will have their own amenities themselves. And then as well as obviously the village, which would be the amenity for the whole community, the village center up front.
And what are the amenities?
It would be
Besides
like,
the pool?
yes, ma'am, like a club, a pool, it depends on the size of the community, but the one at the very back with the where the single family detached would be, it would be a larger type community clubhouse with a pool and tennis courts and things like that. Yes,
Tennis courts.
playgrounds. Yeah. You know, connectivity, this pretty much shows the walkability within the community. The red shows where all the sidewalks would be in the community. The next slide is talking about how we've kind of put in the time of being able to walk to certain functions, either the village green or from the amenities of each section of how people can walk within 5 or 10 minutes. So everything's close and walkability with the sidewalk network that we've planned. And then the yellow will follow some of the sidewalks, and that's more of the multi-use trails we've talked about that can be used for either bikes or golf carts or things like that within the community. And this is just showing them together, how all those go all the way through the community, the yellow multi-use path and the red sidewalks. The township itself, we've talked about when it does come online, that we would do it in phases, like we've always talked about. You know, because right now is not the greatest time for restaurants and commercial. We talked about doing the park area first, but these are some of the concepts that we talked about how that would work and how it would look, some of the architecture. We've got renderings in there of what we think the architecture would look like. It'd be more the mountain style type architecture with a lot of wood. And these are some of the commercial and activity hubs, some of the architectural features. On the left will be the Pendler Apartments that we have under contract with the project. They've already done one similar to this already in the county. It's been very successful and it's a Class A type multifamily with all the Class A, and that's written into the zoning conditions as well, as far as what their features would have. Again, these are just some examples of architecture. The village green, the park area is over an acre. That was a stipulation the planning wanted to see. We enlarged that to be over an acre in size. It's over a football field size.
And what is it for?
Just having functions and events and things like that. And it will be open to the public. I mean, it won't be just for the residents. Anybody, if the county wanted to have an event there, they could have an event there. And so anybody can come to that. That's the whole purpose of putting it on the front end of the project. And real quick to kind of feed on what Bill was talking about, when we looked at the numbers, and that's kind of what I do, and we pretty much have to grade the whole industrial area to make the front of the project work. So just that industrial area is over 300,000 yards of dirt and rock that we have to actually grade that and prepare it, which we all know that industrial users want a padded site anyway. So that wasn't part of our original plan. We were going to do the park area first, but the park area and all that front end of the project sits in a big hole. And the only way to get the dirt is to balance the dirt is to actually grade the whole front of the site. And that's really where all the financial part of the project is kind of pushing us to look at it a little different. So that's the main reason for, and plus the utilities, we have to build a lift station. And the Water and Sewer Authority has been working with us to where they're actually going to let us, they've identified another manhole now that we can go to that's in front of the site. And rather than having us use that temporarily, they're going to work with us as far as letting the industrial and some of the commercial, when it comes on site, go there permanently. So that'll allow us to do that front part a lot sooner than, especially the industrial section, a lot sooner than we thought, and be able to bring on some of the residential along with it. So they're willing to, now that they see that the project may be coming online, they're working with us a little better on the how that works and what they're allowing us to do there. But there will be a lift station up front as part of this, and there'll be another one in the future in the back. So these are just some examples of phase one on the left of how it would look when it first gets built. And then as it gets built out and commercial and restaurants, once we have rooftops and things like that to create the activity, then those hopefully will come along with the economy. And these are, again, pictures of how this will look from an aerial view, left being how it would look in the phase one section. And then as those 4 pads get built out, there would be buildings on those pads. And this whole area is what I'm talking about, that this really can't be built unless we can develop the industrial and the residential first to create the dirt to fill all this area in, is how that works. And
What is your anticipated overall build out time for the whole project?
well, we've been saying 10 years.
10 years?
Obviously, the economy and just everything goes kind of drives that. But that's the,
So in a 10-year period, obviously, it's kind of a phase by phase by phase by
it'll
phase.
definitely be phased.
kind of
The intent is not to
situation.
go in there and grade, 500 acres. That's not going to happen, especially when you get back into the multifamily and the residential. Each one of those pods will be done separately as they're developed. So. And again, the activity and events section, when that comes online, the idea was to, before the activity starts, as far as bringing in restaurants and commercial things like that to those 4 pods, that we would have events. That's why the park would be there for people to use as a park, would have an amphitheater if they wanted to have some kind of entertainment or what have you, and then food trucks would come in. And those are kind of things that can be done, when that section, that phase gets built. And these are just some good examples of different areas that have done that. We've brought up in other presentations about how Halcyon and some of the other bigger developments, that's not the purpose. It's not the purpose here, but they did the same thing in the beginning where they would kind of start out small and bring in food trucks to get activity going while the residential and the rooftops were being built to create the momentum there. So this is kind of an aerial view of what it could look like what it would look like in the completion. And again, some of the architecture we talked about, that's going to be more rustic looking and more fit in with the area.
Sharon, they have to go by the over 400 overlay guidelines.
Yeah, for the front portion.
Uh-huh, so it's gonna dictate what these are.
And most of what they presented to us. we can exceed.
Okay. I love that exceeding.
And again, I mean, until we get potential users in, I mean, architecture can change, but we want to give some examples of what we're kind of achieve here and drive towards the different clientele that will come in, different users. Again, talking about the multifamily, again, this particular developer has already got experience here in the county. And this is their class A type amenities, resort type amenities with, granite hardwoods, the type of interiors they have, which are very nice, equal to a single family living. Okay. And again, we go back to the lot size. I mean, the lot size varies through the community. We will have a section of active adult ranch style homes. In one section of about, I think it's 121 lots in that area. It'll be separate from the other single family homes. And as you go in and go back through the project, the other single family homes the lot sizes will get larger into 65, 75 foot lot sizes for the more of a two-story traditional type single family detached housing towards the rear of the project. It's been brought up. I just want to mention it quickly. It's not on a slide that concerns about the river and pollution and things like that. When you look at our plan, if I can get back to it real quick. We're only, we moved the lots that actually abut the river back from, it was about 200, 250 feet. We moved it back to 400 feet.
Oh.
And that's to the back of the lot. Sorry. You can see up at the very top there, just that one finger of lots up there at the top is the only section of lots and that's 400 feet from the edge of the river up there, the back of those lots. And if you can see, there's kind of a darker line behind those lots. And I've shown this to some of the commissioners. There's a ridge line there, which means that what flows off the back of those lots is going to get to that ridge line before it ever goes to the river. There's about 140 foot difference in elevation between the river and where those lots are. So those lots are about 140 foot higher elevation wise than the river. But there is a ridge line behind those lots, meaning that water's going to flow into the ridge line before it goes to the river. And that'll divert it into two detention areas that we've got on either side there of those lots. So there's really no runoff from those lots that are going to the river. And that span there is about 600 to 800 feet of lots. So there's over 3,000 more feet of river frontage on this property that we're not touching, is going to remain undisturbed in perpetuity, as it's called out in the conditions. So we feel like we're with this plan that we're really protecting the river from any type of runoff or development. And obviously we got to during development go by all the rules and regulations that everybody else has to, which are pretty onerous in these days to erosion control.
But it needs to be. It needs
Well,
to be
especially-
because, I mean,
especially
we're talking
around-
about the Etowah River, we're talking about water. It needs to, that's
That's right.
just my opinion.
So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because it has been a point of contention. And so that's kind of our presentation, and I'll hold any more time if I had any if any rebuttal or questions later on. So
Questions for the applicant?
Y'all did have, in your public meeting, you worked out the issue of the connection with the other subdivision.
we have a signed agreement with Savannah Trace, yes, sir. And part of that agreement, and it's in the zoning conditions that we agreed to, and there is a slide there that we've increased their undisturbed buffer to 200 feet with an additional 50 foot of replanted buffer. And then we're on the northern and eastern boundary line of Savannah Trace. We're putting up a 5 foot black chain link fence along their property line, as well as, yes, the fire connection and gates that's part of the National Fire Code requirement.
And that's a locked gate and. the
Yes,
fire
it has a,
department
has a knock
access
box
to
on it.
The
only-
Knox
Knock
box.
box.
Knock box.
There
It's
we
only,
go.
only for use of the fire department or emergencies.
Right.
Which, like we've said, most of them that we've ever put in, nobody's ever used it. I mean, it's just, but it's just a requirement.
You also provided those residents with a access to your village area
Yes, sir.
through a,
There'll be a gate next to the
Golf cart
drive-in
path.
gate. There's a pedestrian gate that will have whatever lock we agree to, either a simplex lock, which is a number lock, or, I mean, keys get lost, and those gates can, you can change the codes on them. So, but we'll work that out with the community and make sure that they only have access to those.
Do y'all have any plans for upgrading Lumpkin Campground Road and the intersection there at 400? Have y'all got that far?
Yes, sorry, I just, our main presenter isn't here tonight, so I'm catching up. But yes, we did a complete traffic study, which is part of the DRI, but we also updated it with our latest plan, and which looked at all those areas, like different intersections. But yes, part of this project, we've got to put in a dedicated right turn lane if you're coming off of Lumpkin Campground Road going south on 400. And that, because right now, if you're going south, you kind of in the same lane with the people going straight or going north. So that's what backs that up. So we're having to put in a dedicated right lane and reconfigure that island that's there now and move it back. So there will be a dedicated right lane going south. We're also on the left turn off of 400 into Lumpkin Campground. We're adding another lane to the north that's going for truck traffic or car traffic. You can turn off of 400. You'll have two lanes, basically a through lane, and then another lane's dedicated to come into our community. So it's been an additional lane. And then we're having to do the work on the staging of the traffic signal that's there at 400 right now. And so we're doing major improvements to that intersection, yes.
And,
Based on the traffic study and all the traffic counts. It was all done during school time, so we make sure that, we don't do traffic counts unless it's during school time.
What about the roads that are within the development? And this may be a question for staff with this zoning. Are they going to remain private, or do y'all intend on making them public, or as far as county maintained versus?
All the roads will be county public roads, other than probably what's like with inside, like the multifamily. Obviously, those will be private because that's a gated situation. But typically, everything else will be standard, county standard roads and public roads.
But y'all would be looking to turn them over to the county for us to take over maintenance on, or?
That's normally what happens. Yes. I mean, we're up to discussion on that, but it's typically all the subdivision roads. And I know in Dawson County, there's a lot of subdivisions that are private, obviously. And but that's normally all of our subdivision roads are built to county standards and they're public.
other questions of the applicant?
Was one of the stipulations that was staff or planning board, I believe, to maintain current level of service from traffic wise?
There's a comment in there about,
Multiple studies as you go
Correct,
through the
correct.
development is.
they start out by saying you do it annually, and then we say, well, development may slow, it may not. I mean, it could be the same this year as it is next year. So it was pretty much based on, how the community and the development over time grew. And that would be working with the county and staff to, if they think it's time to do one, then we agree we would.
Other questions? of the applicant?
Will you be, and I understand about dirt, dirt's expensive. I can't believe it, but it is, but I know you'll have to do the grading, about, you gonna replant trees? Are you gonna do shrubs? You gonna do native plants? Or are you gonna try to, I understand you're gonna have to grade.
Well, we have to have a landscape plan. That's part of our approved plans. And those obviously have to meet all the requirements of native planning. And I believe there's even something in the conditions that address that.
About what? I didn't,
there's something in the zoning conditions that if y'all approve this, that addresses all that about the plantings and native
Mhm.
plantings, even, yeah. It's, there's a whole section, it's section 8 that addresses landscape. But, yeah, we know that's important for any project, you know. to
Oh, it
make
is,
yeah.
it is.
And so, and again, as the industrial and different sections develop, they'll have to submit their own plans and they'll have to have a landscape plan and it'll have to be approved by staff to make sure that it meets all the requirements.
Because I've seen some of these around here, you can just tell it doesn't really fit. You know, and it's just. And it looks like they said, oh, well, we've got to throw up a tree and here it is. And that's exactly what it looks like. And over the years, it's not amounted to anything. I mean, they still look the same and it looks so out of place. So, you know, if we can work with nature instead of against it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mean,
And I mean, I worry about air quality too. You know, and I'm a tree hugger. I'll admit it. I love trees.
well, we're
and,
leaving 200 acres for you here. so.
I know it, and I'm liking, I like that. I like that. I'd rather have 518 acres of trees, to tell you the truth. I'll just be honest with you. But, you know, in all this, I've not heard anybody even mention about air quality. And every time I see a tree, and we plant trees, by the way, and that's why I'm a tree. And, you know, I'll never live to see another harvest of it. And each tree to me, when it goes down and, you know, if it's not replanted, it's just gone. And I just think it's our air quality that we have to worry about. So that's why and I mean, it's basically physical science. If there are no trees, there are no us.
Well, typically,
There's
the way-
no air, you know,
Typically,
so.
the way the most ordinances work, that by the time the developments are complete, yes, we take down trees, we take down pine trees, different types of trees. But what we have to plant back are usually, you know, very sturdy hardwood trees that are going to grow up and be, you know, take over the old trees that we put down. And there's a lot of trees are diseased in these woods and beetles and everything else, but especially in the pine areas. But
Yeah,
you know,
we've got some of those.
But
I understand.
we have to plant a lot of trees back, you know, based on the disturbed area, just because of the way the counties, all the counties have come up with their landscape
Mhm.
recompense rules.
Now,
for
outside
replacement.
of this particular project, I think with the zonings that we've had with the conservation subdivisions that we've done, I mean, we're really trying to encourage that in everything that we do, I
Yes.
think. So that's a good point, but
Mhm.
maintaining that high percentage of green space is something that we as a community appreciate.
Mhm.
And what we're trying to create here is a master plan community. Without nice landscape, people don't want to live there or come there.
No,
And so
that
that's.
that is true.
that's-
That
that's
is
a-
true.
I mean, that's a marketing point really for us.
Have you ever thought about an aquatic center?
No, ma'am.
And I know that's.
We need to check on
I
that.
know that's a lot of money. I just had to say that. I just had to say that.
Money.
You make a lot of people happy if you could do, you know, pool, a lot of people got pools and they're nice, but you know, if we just had something a little more upscale and I know, I understand it's.
Well, If they call, then, you know, we'll have the space, but. it's,
Do what? I didn't.
If they call us, I mean, we have the space. I mean, it's not something that's not on the list of.
I know it's not listed. I know I looked at every one of them. And there were a bunch of them, but I did not see aquatic center on there. Okay,
Well,
Just
And
curious.
going back to what you said, Sharon, and you've been to these meetings with me.
yes,
We went to the tree
yes,
preservation committee meetings and stuff like that. And
yes.
I had a conversation with Sharon about that as well. You know, we're trying to update that to, we're more native related.
Yes.
And doing all the things that, you know, are native to this area. So
Larger
we
canopies.
continue to
not
work
just
on
these
that,
that go
trying to make
straight
that
up.
better. And, but yes, we have a plan that they have to meet. Yeah.
One of the corridors has it.
So. Any other questions for the applicant?
I just want to go over, I know he's talked about Etowah water and
Oh, yeah.
sewer and trying to get it there, but I know I just want to clear up some conversations been out in the public that the county's not putting in water and sewer. Right?
No,
Okay. And the county's not in the water and sewer business. It's a private authority, Etowah. And y'all paying otherwise tap fees and impact fees on that. But I know a lot of citizens were concerned that the county didn't have the infrastructure with the water and sewer, but we're not in the water and sewer business.
No, and again, that's a large part of the upfront cost of this project is putting all that in to service the whole project.
Several $1 million y'all putting in on
Oh,
that,
Several million, yes. Yeah.
which is putting it up north in the county, north in the 400 where we don't have any water or sewer.
And we're actually, through this project, we'll be extending the 12-inch water line that's on Lumpkin Campground now below us. We got to bring it into our site, through the site, and then over time, we have to take it all the way to the top of the project near Grant Road. So it'll be already,
So
For anything-
it'll
for anything-
benefit future development, benefit future
right.
businesses or future industrial areas or commercial areas. The 12-inch water line that y'all were putting in,
Right.
not the county. Okay. I want to clear it up because there was some concern and talk out there that the county was putting in water and sewer, but we're not in the water and sewer business.
No, we're putting all that in.
Other questions for the applicant? Thank you. We may have some more later. All right, so at this time, I'll open up this hearing. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Come on up. Give us your name and your address. Please sign in, please. And then once you've done that, you will have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm Betty Holland. I'm the director of the North Georgia Conservation Coalition. This is an organization that a group of Dawson County residents started 6 years ago because we love this area so much. It's so beautiful. And we wanted to find ways to help the residents of Dawson County and North Georgia, and that's why it's called North Georgia Conservation Coalition, to understand ways that we could develop our area without destroying the beauty of the area. At that time, we were always doing that because we know that the population of this planet is going to continue to grow. And we can't keep them out of Dawson County. We can't keep them out of Georgia. They're going to come here. And so we want to have good planned development so that we maintain the beauty of the forest, the mountains, the grasslands, the farms, and the rivers and so forth. And so at that time, we actually met with the Planning Commission, not the Planning Commission, Planning Committee, and County Manager David Headley was there when we had an organization called South Face Energy Institute come and talk to the Planning Committee about smart development and smart growth. South Face is very famous for their earthcraft communities and earthcraft homes. And some of you may have heard of those before, especially if you're a builder. You've heard of those because a lot of builders use those types of things for their homes and for their communities. Like I said, some developers follow the guidelines of earthcraft, but a lot of them don't. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of zoning in Dawson County that creates it. It's so they have to do it. Luckily, with the foresight and of the county commission and the planning commission 6, 7, 8 years ago, when I was on that committee, they developed a land use plan that had mixed use communities in it and conservation communities. So that you all have done that in advance. And now we just need to make sure it happens because there's now 6.5 billion people on the planet. There will be 9 billion by 2050. And like Sharon said, we have to be able to provide clean air, clean water, and clean energy and places for those folks to build their homes. And so we have to do that with smart development. And this developer, the one that wants to develop Etowah Bluffs, is very concerned about the environment and saving water and saving energy. And land. Unlike the development I drove by in shock yesterday on Lee Castleberry Road. And there used to be a beautiful forest there. Now it's just all cut down. The whole thing just all totally cut down. And the developer will put houses all over it and lots of roads, but there's no green space. This developer has green space,
Ms. Holland.
49%.
Your time is up.
Thank you all very much, and looking forward to seeing this development happen.
Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Ma'am, come on up. Please give us your name and your address. Please sign in, and then after that, you will have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm Greg Ann Zube, 24 River Overlook Court. My husband and I have lived here for 21 years and have seen a great deal of change, as everyone who is here has. I have attended meetings for every one of the proposals for this development of this parcel of land. I believe this one is the 4th, and as we all know, they go back many years. It seems like the reasons that are shared by the public, both pro and con, for every one of the proposals have been the same. I would think that that could get wearisome for all of you and for all of us as well. But here's the thing, as long as proposals continue to come before you, the public feedback is going to most likely continue the same. There will be pro and con groups, each strongly voicing their opinions. It is your ultimate stance that can begin to change the discourse. Fox Creek is a very reputable developer who has shown the community their commitment to not only hearing concerns, but listening to them and adjusting their plans in response. Among concerns regarding this development that I have heard 3 issues: school crowding, traffic, and crime. My husband and I worked in public school systems for our entire careers. We know what planning for the future development looks like. Our school system is way ahead of the curve, and we should be very proud of that. Traffic. The traffic is continuing to increase, and that is, of course, going to continue whether or not this development is approved. But if we consider the traffic lights and the entry and exits of random development for which this is already potentially zoned for, it will certainly be a lot worse. Crime. I really don't know what's being alluded to here. I do know that where mixed-use villages have been developed nearest us, there's been no increase in crime. And I have not been able to find any evidence that this type of planned community brings any increased threat of criminal activity. The project is projected to take up to a decade to complete. We can support it and know that Dawson County will have a long-term beneficial community added to, or we can watch retail crawl its way north along the 400 corridor. We can think long-term, or we can throw the dice, and we sure don't have much say when the dice gets thrown. Whatever decision you make will result in both unhappy and happy residents. Although it is most likely that if ultimately approved, development will no longer be an option as a future resident for my husband and me, because another 5 to 10 years probably ages us out for being able to take a benefit of it. But I hope that you and the county leaders will see its value in a variety of areas and support it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else to speak in favor? Come on up. Just give us your name and your address. Please sign in, and then you will have 3 minutes.
I wrote as fast as I could. Good evening, Brian Trapnell, 103 Harbor Ridge Drive. Commissioners, thank you for the time and for allowing me to speak this evening, as well as others. This is an important topic for the community in general, and an important decision for each of you individually. I know it's not easy, and I appreciate your leadership, especially during difficult times like this. My name is Brian Trapnell. As I said, I've been married 18 years this coming Sunday, and my 2 boys are growing up to be proud Dawson County Tigers. My family is active in our church and throughout the community. We've been here for a very long time, maybe not as long as some, but certainly longer than many. And I learn something new about this community every day, and that's what makes me love this place more and more, and what drives my passion in serving it. Did you know that we have 30% capacity in our existing school buildings? We have room for growth in our school system thanks to the forward thinking of community leaders who preceded us by many years. Did you know that over 4% of the acreage in our county is zoned for commercial, yet it drives 60% of our tax revenue? That keeps our property taxes low. Did you know that despite the view of things along the 400 corridor, the population of Dawson County is just 11% of that of Forsyth County immediately south of us? Of course, most of those questions are rhetorical. They're meant to highlight that we have a diverse community with a lot of room for growth without sacrificing our quality of life. And we have further to go to diversify and strengthen our local economy much further. As we know, most of our population commutes to jobs outside of the community, while those who serve us in our most visible front-facing food service and retail jobs more often than not come to do so from outside of our community. Let us create new opportunities for our residents to live and work right here. Here are some interesting statistics that speak to the positive economic impact of the decision that's before you as it relates to the commercial and industrial aspects of this development through a commercial impact study. Both direct and indirect jobs created would be 525 jobs. Total income generated would be $23 million, separate and apart from the residential development that's before us. Those are encouraging numbers. That said, the decision before you is one of great consequence. Rejecting this request demonstrates that we as a community are not open to change in partnership with a group that clearly has sought to engage in good faith compromise on this development. That kind of rejection only pushes such development to other nearby counties while still producing the traffic congestion many fear, while taking with it the jobs and investment that would benefit the residents of this community. Approving this request allows for new commercial and industrial development to come to our community, further diversifying our tax base and thus ensuring the durability of our local economy through more jobs and investment. It balances developmental needs with the strong desire to keep Dawson County the way that we want it. Plans are in place to protect green space separate and apart from this development, which itself incorporates substantial green space into its plans. As I've lived in this community and throughout, seen all the change over the last decade plus, I believe that Dawson County has gotten better
Mr.
with
Chapman?
age. Yes, sir.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is that Bill said?
He missed it.
What?
Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Come on up, give us your name and your address. Please sign in, and then you will have 3 minutes.
I'm Carol Turner. I reside at 1872 Kylo Church Road. I'm here as a personal support, even though I am on the board of Development Authority. But after much personal research and thought, I wholeheartedly support Fox Creek in this endeavor for several reasons. Number one, we need planning, and this gives a complete area of planning. But because there's no use for me to repeat, it's just that I totally support, and all the research bears it out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Come on up, give us your name and your address. Please sign in, and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Michael Cochran. I reside at 93 Brights Way. That is in the Savannah Trace subdivision. I'm a part of the HOA Architectural Review Board of the subdivision there that is adjacent to the property that's here before the mixed use zoning. And we're here in full support of the meeting or of the rezoning. We've had multiple attempts to reach out to the subdivision through Facebook, HOA, platform that we have set up. And also we've had 3 Zoom meetings that all the neighbors and people could be a part of as well. We've also stuffed mailboxes twice in the subdivision because we don't have everybody's email address, as you can imagine, in the subdivision. So we've done our attempts to try to head a lot of questions and concerns off in the HOA on our side to make this process easy for everybody. We've had a great response. I would say, I would hate to give a percentage, but I would say 90% of the houses in there are in full support. There probably are a few that you couldn't make happy if you gave them the world, but for ultimately, we've got a huge support for this mixed use permit that's going to be going on behind us and directly affect us. As far as the emergency road that they're asking to use on the Brights Way, we have come to terms with that as well and worked out an agreement where we're both happy and we're in full support of them using that as an emergency exit for the community that they plan to build. And we're happy to see it. We're happy to see some mixed use come up to Dawsonville. We're wanting some high-end restaurants in the near future. And we love that it's going to be in our back door and we're going to have access to that. That's a big plus to what we're seeing in our community. So again, we're here as an HOA and we're here in support of it. Any questions I can answer.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Come on up, please give us your name, address, please sign in, and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Tony Passarello. I live at 180 Sunset Drive. I'm here, try not to be redundant and sensitive to your time. I'd like to reinforce our support of this particular zoning application with stipulations as outlined and developed over the last year in the cooperation and with the input of our citizenry. First of all, it's within the intent of the long-range plan, this particular type of development along the 400 corridor with the restrictions, stipulations, and the ordinances that have preceded it. My comments are more on the foundation of the commercial and industrial development that's going to be included in this mixed use. We commissioned a study from Georgia Tech that did an analysis over a 10-year period that talked to the impact of services versus income and revenue to the county. In that result, if you assume a 10-year development plan and understand that that could be smaller or larger depending on the economy and some of the other barriers that will come up in the future.
It's all right.
If you look at that, this is one of the few developments that the county is considered approving or adding to the community that actually balances. I'm not really concentrating in the residential because that will come, but the impact of the mixed use here more than offsets the overall cost of services over a 10-year period. For those that are in finance backgrounds, like Vicky, but the net present value calculations for this over a 10-year period were positive to the county. So a good investment. Also, it's consistent with the Development Authority of Dawson County's strategic plan to create jobs that contain growth along the 400 corridor, to partner with the developer to help us site our first industrial park in the county. And lastly, a pet peeve of mine, of course, is the connectivity to the master plan, trail plan that you have already approved. So I encourage this board to approve the rezoning applications with stipulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone else here to speak in favor of the application? Okay. Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? All right, we'll start out with you, sir. Please come up, sign in, give us your name and your address. and then you will have 3 minutes.
Bruce Dunzel, 805 Lula Garrett Road. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. In Proverbs 22, Solomon prophesied directly to you, set in the seat of government. Do not rob the poor because he is poor, nor oppress the afflicted at the gate, for the Lord will plead their cause and plunder the soul of those who plunder them. By approving evil plans, this proposed plan being just the most recent, you rob and oppress and plunder the people who elected you. Why are these plans evil? Because they're based on lies. At the center is a lie of economic development, which means bringing more very high cost housing and mostly low wage jobs. And the lie that an influx of people is coming and we must make ready. The same foolishness that has abolished our southern national border. These plans replace free market capitalism with Soviet style central planning. And so you turn our farms and forests into urban sprawl. You cater to migrants and transients who displace our people, eat our substance, fill our streets, commit crimes, raise our costs of living, put our lives at risk, and guarantee ever higher taxes. You have no idea as to the cumulative impact of what you have already committed us. You have put us into a tax and spend spiral, just like those over our major cities and the nation as a whole, that can only end in an economic collapse. Why have you done this? You ignore the only legitimate purpose of American government, to protect the rights and liberties of the citizens who elect you. Instead, like the money changers in the temple, you have turned government into a business. You line the pockets of some at our expense. You bow to the rich when he threatens to sue you if you do not. But do you dare not trust the courts for justice against extortion? Therefore, you silence the people's cries against your actions. Why have you done this? Have you lost your moral compass? You've given your hearts and minds to serve new masters, the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, an unelected regional government, and ultimately the UN through their myriad associations, NGOs, and public-private partnerships. You cannot serve two masters. Your vote to approve or disapprove this evil plan will determine to whom you bow down. Repent therefore and disapprove this request and put an indefinite moratorium on all such future schemes.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? We'll start with you and then we'll come back to you in the back. Please sign in, give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
And I'll need to fill out a form.
Okay, do you have those, Kristen?
If not, I'll get it
Campaign
later. My name is Deanna Dickinson. I reside at 500 Dawson Point Parkway. I'm back here to speak to y'all again. One thing I'd like to ask is in the future, for people that are coming from work, if maybe you could have a set planned time for this meeting to start at 5 o'clock versus starting it at 4:20 or 4:30, just for those that work. The property in question for rezoning was originally zoned for a reason. The RA, residential agricultural, requires 5 acres per unit and maintains the county rural and small town character. Instead of taking this and making it a total mixed use development, could we not maybe change? I understand 400 corridor. I know what's going to be built out. I know that's the plan, but could we not maybe, you have RA for 5 acres, one house, 5 acres, change it to RAC 1.5 acres and change it like that versus mixed use village if you're going to make changes. But I do not recommend a mixed use village total. Understand Bill Evans does a great development. I've seen this and looked at it and looked at his other developments, But I just do not feel that the infrastructure is set in place for Dawson County at this time. And again, I've said it once, I'll say it again. I recommend at least 6-month moratorium, and if not a 12-month moratorium. I spoke with Will Wade, our state rep today. He said he recommends a 6-month moratorium. So just so that you know how people feel, I also have printed out 72 pages of 897 signatures that I sent to Sharon. She got a copy of it. 894 of those opposed and 3 were other. I didn't include the ones that just laughed. So 894 of the Dawson County citizens actually oppose this, and I have this and can give it to you. Again, I just feel like the small town character, we're losing it. We're losing our small town character, and it's a great place to live, and I want to continue for it to be a great place to live. Infrastructure in place first, and then we go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone out here to speak in opposition? Come on up, ma'am. Please give us your name and your address, sign in, and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Jessica Scott. I live at 24 Caboose Lane. Before I actually go into what I was going to say, I just wanted to bring up to the lady that was in favor of this, because the developer really cares about our environment, and then went on to criticize the Lee Castleberry whole mess of being drug right down. It's the same develop under a different LLC. Do your research on that. But where I was going to start is Dawson County slogan is where quality of life matters. But does it? Where does the line get drawn when taxpayers like myself and other people in this room who pay the commissioner's paycheck have their quality of life taken away for another development? Is it when our children's education starts to suffer because 30 to 40 kids in one classroom with one teacher to help them all? Or is it when every square mile of this county has been built on? Or how about when crime shoots through the roof because of the developments and we don't have enough officers like the ones in the back on the road to handle the volume of calls, considering we have the same amount of officers on the road that we did 10 years ago. Since their traffic expert has suggested in a previous meeting that we just shoot the gap with the extra traffic, does our quality of life end when we get into an accident and we need EMS support, but they're all out on calls and we're just kind of stuck there waiting? This is a very realistic situation, considering Chief Thompson himself wrote a letter stating to the planning commission, and I quote, "This large of an increase in the number of structures and people to protect will absolutely increase the number of calls to Dawson County EMS," end quote. Mr. Thompson also continued to state that we already have enough trouble in our county with the amount of ambulances that are available for transport. We're without them. We don't have enough. I know my taxes just went up. When are we going to finally get EMS and everybody else a bigger budget so we can actually service the county how they want to, how it needs to be done? We shouldn't have to rely on surrounding counties for mutual aid. What happens when they start clearing the property and they start building and it's just one giant flat piece of land? And then the economy tanks, because I don't know if you've looked at it, it ain't looking good. It's going down fast. We, the residents of this county, are going to be stuck looking at empty lots. They can't even commit to a timeline other than 10 to 12 years or 10 years, everything else. We're just going to build it out in phases. But what happens when they abandon the project because people can't afford $485,000 homes or $250,000 homes? Because I can't tell you one person who works in the restaurant industry that's going to be able to afford these homes or any of the other businesses that come in there. It's just not going to happen. What I can tell you is what's going to happen is it's going to look just like Riley Place and Dawson Forest. And if you haven't drove by there, Within the last 5 years, they said, we're going to put more condos and townhomes. There's so many places to live, even though there's already about at least 1,000 other homes being built on Dawson Forest. You should consider changing it for the quality of life. Really doesn't matter unless we stand to make money off of you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition? Come on up. Please sign in, give us your name and your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Karen Brennan. I reside at 140 Eastview Drive. I'm going to keep it simple. What she said, what he said, what all the rest of these people said. And the concern that I have is the traffic studies take into account, they were secured by the developer. That's just their development. Since I've moved here, Bumpkin Campground near Carlo Church, it's getting scalped. I went to the movie theater last night. I'm like, holy cow. It's just being developed. So I'm not saying development's not going to come. And I'm not saying that the developer did good faith to try to satisfy us. But the concern that I have is we're doing a lot, but we haven't let the dust settle and then take traffic studies and then see if the EMS can support us. I'm commuting on Lumpkin Campground Road and they're building sewers right now and it's down to 1 lane. So we're going to live with this for a while. So how are the EMS going to come out there? So all I'm asking for you is maybe we need to table this a little bit and take a look at what's already in the hopper, give it a year and look at traffic counts, look and see how the profitability is as far as impact fees versus the cost of services needed, and then revisit this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone else? Come on up.
Can I speak, not having an opinion on either?
Well, please sign in.
My name is Alexa Bruce. And I live at 175 Harmony Church Road. So I wasn't planning on to speak, but I feel it necessary. I'm nor for or against the development, but I think facts are important while making this decision. I'm running for District 3 Commissioner, and that's only pertinent because it gives me the opportunity to discuss the development at large with many citizens, both against and for the development. The biggest concerns are infrastructure and safety as far as what I've heard. EMS specifically. First with safety, we run 4 ambulances, one in reserve, so it can be used if necessary. We have mutual aid agreements with 2 surrounding counties. We have 8 fire trucks, all of which can accommodate the same as ambulances minus transport, as well as fire stations being equipped for protocol under transport if needed or provided. We also have 2 additional ambulances that will be here in June and 2 in the next year. Yes, growth is increasing, so yes, calls will increase. This needs to be closely monitored, but believe it or not, the county is ahead of it as far as ambulances are concerned. Infrastructure. So we have SPLOST, LMIG, and additional grants to help with current roads and et cetera. Now you're talking 10 million in impact fees from this project that will tremendously help increase for our Park and Rec department, which is busting at the seams, in assistance with our children. It will go towards roads, which is our infrastructure, fire and EMS, as well as the library. Never mind what's already been mentioned is the 89% of this development can already be done as is without showing up here in front of you. This allows the ball to be in our court, but we can't promise future developments would give us all of these stipulations as well as 200 acres of untouched green space. That's huge. I also want to mention our schools are only at 70% capacity, as well as having purchased 2 pieces of property for future schools beside both Rock Creek and on State Route 183. So I think this development could potentially be really good for Dawson County. I think it could add a lot of income. I think it can provide more jobs. I think it could be a work, live, play environment, which would benefit our quality of life. We won't have to spend our tax dollars in a different community, and we won't have to travel so far for our children to enjoy things. We don't have to use other people's amenities. We could have them right here in our county.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in opposition to the application? Come on up. Give us your name and your address. Please sign in. and then you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Beth Martin. I live at 586 Brights Way. My main concern is the EMS. That's been an issue for a couple years now. And we just seem to keep adding more and more developments. And that's going to need more and more EMS. And it just concerns me that when they start building the developments even, there's going to be people working there. And that we don't have enough to go around. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone else? No. No, there's not a set. You can come up and speak if you would like.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I just might add that for a public hearing, it's an opportunity for us to hear
Your-
public comments.
Yeah, it's just your
Um,
opportunity to
If-
speak.
But if you have questions, then certainly those can be directed to staff or to commissioners at other times.
Something brought up, but who's new today?
If you're gonna
Excuse me,
speak, you
sir,
gotta
if
come
you're-
up here,
yes.
you gotta sign in. You gotta give us your name and your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
My name's Phil Torrey, 101 Grant Road West. I'm right up against the back side of this. There's a little section up in the very far northeast corner that was a residence that I believe was recently added to the overall project. Very northeast corner, the square up there at the top right. That's in there. There's been no discussion today about the 400 entrance. There was talk about an entrance off of 400 directly into this particular piece of property. So I'm kind of curious about that. I'm also concerned about construction entrance. Where is the construction entrance going to be on this? If it's a 10 to 12-year project, is that construction entrance off of Kylo Church or not Kylo Church, but off Lumpkin Campground? Is construction coming off of 400? Is construction coming off of Grant Road? So these are questions that are still wide open. If it's coming right off of Grant Road, it's right alongside my house. So, like I say, it's questions. It's not an against, it's not a for, it's just still open things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here speak in opposition to the application? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close the hearing. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, can I get address staff?
Yeah.
Can we read this? I know it's long, probably. How many stipulations we got? Sorry.
No, I'd rather do it this way. They're sectioned off for the most part by topic. The first being the permitted residential land uses, which caps the residential at 586. Caps the multifamily at 300. Caps the senior adult at 100. Requires that with each residential pod, the active recreation use be a minimum of 5% and be under construction prior to recording of the final plat of that pod. So each individual community has its own rec area. The overall residential density for the entire project shall not exceed 2 units per acre for the entire tract. That's everything. Building facades substantially similar to the elevations as shown in the exhibit, to include brick and stone. Minimum side yard property line setback measured from the overhang. That was something my building official asked me for specifically. Premise identification numbers not less than 4 inches high. A maximum of 84,000 square feet of general office, medical, and dental space. A maximum of 50,000 square feet of retail and restaurant space, A minimum of 250,000 square feet of the warehouse logistics flex space. Just to clarify, as we're doing plan review, that if an accessory use such as a pump house or something was to come in, I like to see it in writing so the staff is not concerned with approving something that they don't see on a plan. So if you needed a whatever, I can't think of it right now, but something small,
Excuse me, what are you reading from?
conditional.
Resolution?
I got it.
Are you just jumping around or?
No, I am on page 2.
Okay,
Accessories.
okay. All right. Well, you didn't do page 1. Where did you start?
Well, page 1 would have been the whereas.
Okay. Okay.
Please don't
Okay,
make me.
permitted land uses, okay.
Yes. The open space clarified, a minimum of 200 acres of the project shall be preserved in perpetuity as undisturbed conservation area. And then prohibited uses. Do you want me to read every one of those?
I just want on record to the. public.
Okay, I hear you. Electronic game playing centers, adult entertainment centers. Again, these are prohibited uses. Adult novelty, discount supermarket, food manufacturing, beverage and tobacco manufacturing, textile mill, textile product mill, apparel manufacturing, general heavy industrial, mini warehouse, self-storage, leather manufacturing, wood manufacturing, paper manufacturing, printing and support activities, petroleum and coal manufacturing, chemical manufacturing, plastics and rubber manufacturing, non-metal mineral manufacturing, primary metal manufacturing, fabricated metal product manufacturing, machinery manufacturing, computer and electronic product manufacturing, electrical equipment, appliance and component manufacturing, transportation equipment manufacturing, furniture and related manufacturing, storage of hazardous materials, and automobile sales. And I did that to clarify what is already in the code, but also to make it real clear to anybody reading the ordinance that the warehouse flex space logistics is not an industrial use. And these are industrial uses. These are manufacturing uses. And that's not what's going on, what's going to happen on site. Development standards, multifamily buildings shall be protected by an automatic sprinkler system. Poured concrete retaining walls visible from the public right-of-way must be faced with stone or brick. Multifamily units shall include hardwood floors, granite countertops, modern fixtures, and stainless steel appliances. The multifamily portion of the development, also referenced as Pod E, shall include at least one of the following amenities: full-service gym, resort-style pool, clubhouse, dog park, or picnic area. Again, with the environmental protections, there shall be no less than a 50-foot undisturbed buffer plus an additional 25-foot setback from all stream banks. There shall be no less than a 250-foot undisturbed natural vegetated buffer from the banks of the Etowah River. Disturbance or encroachment by ditches, swales, stormwater conveyance, stormwater detention ponds, sanitary sewer, and any associated easements shall not encroach into a buffer except as necessary for utility crossing. All necessary stormwater or sanitary sewer pipe encroachment must encroach into the buffer as near to perpendicular as practical. Grading for stormwater detention ponds shall not encroach into any buffer. Any improvements to the water or sewer systems required to meet fire flow or other requirements shall be done at the developer's expense. There shall be no trees planted within the right-of-way or utility easements. The conditions, the first three under F, were from the Planning Commission approval. Land leveling and grading activity cannot commence without an approved land development plan. Sculpting of the land, i.e. pad grading without approved plans, is prohibited. So what they were communicating to me that with that is you can't just go in and grade 50 acres and then put up a sign, trying to attract business. They wanted to clarify that the exhibit is conceptual in regards to the management of entry and exit points, driveways, entrances, exits, or what is known as throat depths for the drives, between roadways and adjacent properties. The exact location of the project entry and exit points must be determined by the Georgia Department of Transportation and the county engineer or designee. A traffic study update must be performed at the completion of the individual pods or on an annual basis as determined by the Dawson County engineer or designee. A section of the property along the north and east property line of the Savannah Trace plat shall have a 200-foot undisturbed buffer and an additional 50-foot replanted landscape buffer. A 5-foot in height black vinyl chain link fence shall be installed adjacent to the north and east property line of the Savannah Trace plat. The single-family detached lots that border the 250-foot combined buffer and landscape area adjacent to the Savannah Trace plat shall not be permitted to encroach or construct any improvements within the 250-foot buffer and landscape area. This restriction shall also apply to the homeowners association and the individual lot owners. And again, number 7 is for Savannah Trace. Owner developer shall provide a 24-foot wide access easement from the Savannah Trace plat property to the road system of the development in substantially the same location as shown on the concept plan to provide pedestrian and golf cart access from Savannah Trace for Savannah Trace residents. Such access may be limited by a locked gate requiring a key or code to open. Emergency access to the property shall be provided across the Savannah Trace access easement described above and shall have a gate with a knock box with fire department emergency access. The Grand Green, as shown in Pot A, which is a grass area, shall be no less than 1 acre in size. The owner applicant shall dedicate 3.5 acres of land for future civic use or undisturbed open space to Dawson County in substantially the same location as depicted on the exhibit. The dedication of that land shall take place prior to a development permit issued for pod B or C, whichever occurs first, and that was the industrial and the commercial. The developer shall employ a third-party erosion control monitoring firm for the project. The firm shall be responsible for inspection of construction sites and implementation of stormwater and erosion control ordinances. The firm shall provide weekly reports on all active permits to Dawson County. Under transportation, the developer shall be responsible for additional analysis to be conducted to assess the impact of phase development over time. Owner developer shall dedicate right-of-way on Lumpkin County Road to accommodate required new and relocated deceleration lanes where necessary for road improvement projects as determined by the Department of Engineer or the designee final to the approval of any final plat. The developer shall be responsible for all improvements and mitigation measures for acceleration and deceleration lanes. Pedestrian connectivity shall be provided by an 8-foot cart paths and 5-foot sidewalks substantially as delineated in the connectivity plan attached as an exhibit. In the village center, clear pedestrian and visual paths shall be established using a combination of covered arcades, covered walkways, courtyards, landscape patterns, consistent paving materials, minimal interruption of the pedestrian paths, and similar features. Sidewalks shall be present in all residential areas on at least one side of the street. In non-residential areas, sidewalks shall be present along both sides of the street. Sidewalks and pedestrian driveway crossings shall be placed so that pedestrians are visible to drivers and drivers are visible to pedestrians. Pedestrian driver sightlines shall not be blocked with landscaping or signage. There shall be no access to Grant Road from the project. Under landscaping, all landscaping shall incorporate a minimum of 40% evergreen plantings. All plant material must be Georgia native. Landscape plans depicting plant materials to be used to mitigate development impacts along the northern and southern project boundary shall be submitted at the time of application for development permits. The plan shall include the required buffers necessary for screening. Buffers in which vegetation is non-existent or inadequate to meet the screening requirements shall be planted with supplemental planting so as to provide a year-round effective visual screen. Supplemental plantings and replantings shall consist of evergreen trees, shrubs, or a combination native to the region. All trees planted shall be a minimum of 6 feet in height and shall be of a species that will achieve 20 feet of height. Examples: American holly, eastern redbud, eastern red cedar, Fraser fir, scarlet oak, laurel oak, chestnut oak, Virginia pine, and willow oak. All shrubs planted shall be a large growing species, shall be a minimum of 3 feet in height at the time of planting, and shall achieve a height of at least 6 feet at maturity. Stormwater management ponds, including but not limited to detention and retention ponds, shall include landscaping intended to attract dragonflies for mosquito control, including but not limited to Joe Pye weed. I can't pronounce the next one. Bee balm, black-eyed Susan, swamp milkweed, and white yarrow. And then the last one was parking. And we stop at that because I think the rest of the development is self-explanatory, and I didn't need any additional stipulations outside of the code we have in place. Parking lot areas shall be designed to ensure a safe flow of traffic in the town center, safe travel of pedestrians, bicyclists, and delivery vehicles. The landscape design of the parking area shall maximize natural areas for natural infiltration, and that is basically saying we're going to do as much as we can with natural drainage.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. A
And-
lot of work, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean,
There's
drink.
a lot of
The
time
only-
and effort put in that.
Get it read into the record.
Read into the record. The only condition that should be added that is part of our comprehensive plan language for mixed-use villages, and this is right out of the comp plan, is development of each village must be phased so that within the first phases, both residential and non-residential spaces are provided at the same time.
Thank you.
Is there any provision for trees and plants and all that die? You know, you can't just sometimes just set stuff out, set it out and it's gonna
I
live.
think in our current land, our
So-
current
Yes.
plan, they have to replace everything for up to 12 months, correct?
Up to 12 months, and then we would also, certainly after a year, after we've checked it the first year, then there'd be property owners association and homeowners associations. We also have the ability with our marshal's office to enforce the landscape plan. Yeah,
With our maintenance ordinance.
that too. That too. So we have different ways to approach that, of course.
Just ensure that
Yeah.
they're
Yes.
gonna be living.
Right, that's why we went with Georgia native. They're a little more tolerant, very,
Yes.
much more drought
Yeah.
tolerant.
I know we, in that preservation thing, we talked about the size of canopies and that's, of course, we not met in a while, but I don't see that here, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Now, that would be specifically in our tree ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Davis, do you have a comment or something? Okay, just checking. I thought you was looking this way. All right. All right, commissioners. You have some options, obviously. The applicant has asked you for a 60-day wait so that he can run some more numbers and look at the development as a whole. That's an option that you have. You have an option to approve or deny the development or the application. And in those two options, you've got to remember this is a two-step process. You have the zoning of the property, and then you have to approve what's called a master plan. So those are your options.
But now, is it not, it's not a master plan yet, is it?
No, it's a
It's
concept
So we
plan.
don't have a master
No,
plan.
you have a better than normal concept plan to
Yes,
look
I
at.
know, she said it.
But you would have to approve, if you decided to approve the zoning, you would have to come back and prove a master plan when that was presented. Now, that's your options. What is the pleasure of the board?
Well, being that the responsibility that this board has is to take all facts relevant to the process and to the development, public feedback. We've done that. We've heard from both sides, both passionately on both sides of that equation. The developer has asked for more time to to adjust some things and to make sure that we do have all the facts. So for me, I would not be ready to make a decision because we don't have all the full picture. And I would assume that the developer would be coming back within the 60 days as they've requested to provide the exact picture of what we're to be voting on. Be my motion that we agree to table this to allow that time in order to have all the facts and all the pertinent details to make the best decision we can.
Your motion's a table for 60 days.
Yes, sir.
Have a motion from Commissioner Gaines for tabling for 60 days. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion.
That would be date wise. It won't
be
land exactly on 60 days. Be the,
on or around July 21st.
Okay.
no,
Is that the third Thursday? Okay.
21st, yep.
Okay. A normal day. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And that motion to approve the table is approved 4-0. All right. Next up, we have ZA 2210. We'll take about a 5-minute break. If anybody wants to leave, that'll give you an opportunity to. And we'll be back and move on to the third zoning application. 5 minutes.
Wow. I think I'll circulate and lift my legs. That's kind of.
All right, we're going to resume. I'll ask everybody to take their seat. Ask everybody to please take their seat.
Move it, move it.
We're going to start back the meeting here. All right, so next up, we have ZA 2210. George and Phyllis Robinson request to rezone tax map parcel 088-001 and 087-004 from RSR residential sub-rural to RA residential agriculture for the purpose of downzoning the parcel for agricultural purposes. Sharon.
They have over 15 acres that they're combining. And they are seeking the change to expand the existing farm activities. They'll explain in detail, but the planning commission did recommend approval.
Okay, questions for Sharon? Thank you. Is the applicant present? Come on up, tell us what you'd like to do.
Yes, my name is George Robinson. My wife Phyllis and I reside at 1115 Dawson Forest Road West. We immediately abut the Dawson Forest Wildlife Management Area. We bought actually 3 plots, only 2 are in question here, with the intent of having our home and homes for both of our sons and their wives on the property. Rezoning to RA. We are running a small farm to table type business right now, growing microgreens for sale at farmers markets and such. This is all indoor vertical farm right at this time. We want to go to the RA to give us a little more flexibility in our sales. The way we're currently zoned, we can only sell from the end of our driveway. Nobody can come onto our property for it, and would allow us more flexibility in what we can grow and sell at the markets or from the property. I think you probably got the plot. We've actually taken a 14-acre plot and about an 1.5 acre plot combined into 15 acres, resurveyed it, and made 3 5-acre, slightly over 5 acres each plots. There's the existing home was on 1 plot. We just completed our home on the 2nd plot, and you can see on the 3rd plot, there is a home to be built. Our son just got out of the Army a few months ago, and we'll plan on building probably in 2023, another single family home right there. So we are looking forward to the down zone to give us a little bit more flexibility. We'll probably looking hopefully next year at adding some raised bed gardens. No other structures planned at this time.
What did you say you were growing now?
They're microgreens. They're okay.
What is that?
Small plants. They're basically, if you hear people eating sprouts,
Oh,
they
okay.
eat the seed just as it's sprouted. The microgreens, we just grow a little bit past that stage. You don't eat the seed. We harvest.
I thought you
for
said
sale at the market.
micrograins and I thought.
No,
what did you say?
microgreens, excuse me.
Do you participate in our farmers market?
We do at Amicalola Regional Farmers Market. Yes, we do. We started there last year. It's a great market, by the way.
Oh,
It's a
I
nice
know.
facility.
Yes, yes.
My wife is actually at Flower Branch Market today, and we do Halcyon and some others. So, yes, but we consider Dawson County as our home community that we are building here, and it's largely around the market with Louise and all that. Yes, ma'am.
Other questions of the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so at this time, I'll open the hearing. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Fawcett, seconded by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. ZA 2210 is approved 4-0. Next, we have ZA 2211. Tyler Burt requests to rezone 2 acres of tax map parcel 068-014 from RA residential agriculture to RSRMM residential sub-rural manufactured move for the purpose of subdividing the parcel to RSRMM standards. Sharon.
Yes, the parent parcel is over 9 acres in size, but the applicant just needs to rezone or rezone 2 acres. Basically, because 2 acres is what he needs to create for residential manufactured home. It is somewhat consistent with our comprehensive plan. The planning commission recommended approval, and there was no concerns or conditions with that approval.
No stipulations. Any questions for Sharon? Thank you. Is the applicant present? Come on up, tell us what you'd like to do. Please sign in for us, and then give us your name and your address.
I'm Tyler Burke, currently at 1347 Cleveland Road. Basically, what I'm doing is it's old family land just being passed down to me. My aunt's the current owner of the property. She's keeping 2 acres and her little house there. And I plan on putting a house on the existing 7.25, I think it is. So that's basically it.
Okay, questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you.
It's over, a little over 7 acres.
Yeah, it's like 7.22, I think.
7.2664.
664. Okay.
Okay.
Even better.
Even better. Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you. All right, I'll open the hearing. Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Hearing none, I'll close that hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. ZA 2211 is approved 4-0. We'll move on into new business. First up, we have consideration of request for FY 2023 capital funds for Georgia Department of Transportation bus lease. Dawn presented that to us at our last meeting. That's $6,458. That would be our part on the bus lease. And that would come from fund balance. And you may want to stipulate that if you decide to approve that. So is any other information needed? Motions?
Make a motion to approve with the funds coming out of fund balance.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Satterfield.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion.
Was she going, I know somebody brought up about us buying one of those buses if it's available. Was she going to check?
She's
on
going
that?
to check on that, I think. Yeah, and let us know. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please vote. That's approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration of FY 2023 Legacy Link contract for nutrition program services. Dawn brought that to us. That's $185,128 from the feds and the state, and then we county match that with $367,382, which is part of the budget process. Any other information needed? Motions.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett. Second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration of insurance renewal options, medical, dental, and vision for 22-23. Miss Christie, come up and tell us the new info. we sought.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. Yes, we are just here to request the opinion of the board for the plan proposals for insurance benefit coverage for plan year 2022-2023. Our two proposals came in at the top from Cigna and Humana. And that is mainly to cover consideration of our medical, dental, and vision, as all other plan benefits will be remaining the same. And those proposals were presented to you earlier at the last vote, our work session. And just as an update, in summary, we have been provided those plan option totals. There was two proposals that were presented on that regard. The first being one for a no increase to employees on annual premium, and the second being a cost share ratio for remains of the same. And I can go through the numbers if you would like.
Please.
Okay. No increase to employees. In regards to Cigna, the annual premium for the employer cost was $3,249,210.96. At the current time, the 2022 employer impact would be $285,507.84. And then for Humana, for the annual premium employer cost overall was $3,150,971.52, implying an employer impact cost for 2022 of $187,268.40. Now with Humana, they have also offered to provide a 1-month premium that would be applicable at the discretion of the board.
Okay,
For cost share remains,
so that would change that 185 to actually a negative number.
yes,
Okay.
if applied in full, then the 187,268.40 for employer impact would be reduced to a negative $146,454.60, which could be banked for future use for premiums.
Okay.
For the cost share remains remaining the same. For Cigna, the annual premium employer cost overall was $3,189,466.91. The 2022 employer impact from that would be $225,763.79. For Humana, the annual premium employer overall would be $3,113,642.89, with the employer impact being $149,939.77. If the premium holiday is applied on the behalf of Humana, that would bring it to a negative $183,783.23. And it has been the recommendation, if possible, by Dawson County Human Resources to hopefully maintain the current premiums for the employers. And the
Employees.
employees.
We currently are 80-20,
We are.
80-20.
Oh,
Okay, yeah. All right, any questions for Christie? So if we engage the 1-month thing, obviously we're going to be in the negative, so as personally, I couldn't see why we would burden the staff with any more. I'm not against staying where we were at 80-20. So everybody has skin in the game as we try to work with HR in reference to their health programs and to get people to participate and do what they should do so that we can all work this thing out together and have better premiums going forward. So what is the pleasure of the board, or do you have any more questions for Christie?
I did talk to finance, and I'd like for us to consider, you kind of alluded to it, is if we take the premium holiday, 385,617, I think is the right number. Is that right?
The The full total for 333.
333. So we take that, we take out the 187, that leaves us with banking 146, 454, 60. And we can put that into a designated fund for next year's renewal. So it kind of, it allocates that out specifically because we're seeing trends in increases. So that would be my suggestion, is that we bank that in a designated fund for next year's health insurance renewal.
What was the other option to that? You suggested that, but there was something else.
Well,
Possibility you could do with it.
The initial three options were either to fully invest, which this is really showing that, fully invest the full amount into the plan to reduce the employer cost for now, or only do a portion if the county wanted to supply a portion to have a larger amount to bank. That would just be in consideration, really more for plan year 2023. However, this does offset, as you see, the cost for the county, but also already provides a nice incentive for the future.
Yeah.
What do we budgeted an extra 100,000 this year? That's what we did.
Right, you want to put that in some kind of a motion?
So, excuse me.
Go ahead.
So which company y'all recommending?
We would like to recommend Humana. Just
Seems
for
like
the
a
cost
no-brainer to me.
savings and the productivity that they've brought to the table, as well as the wellness services.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, and I'm just speaking, just with talking with pharmacy and places like that, Cigna, they started off pretty good, but lately, they're not wanting to pay anything. And one of the local pharmacy I talked to said that he's losing anywhere from 15 to 18% on all county employees that comes to him, because Cigna's not paying them what they used to pay them. And that's cost going back on our employees, or they're having to go to another pharmacy or somewhere to get their medicine.
Well, humanity's, why do I say humanity? I said Humana has really stepped up to the plate and seemed like any question we had, they jumped on it and they cut the price, and it just sounds great. And I know it is a disruption a little bit, to switch from one, but I'm telling you, look at the numbers, and I believe that they will continue to be just like they've been while you've been doing this.
They have been very responsive to
They
our
have.
negotiations and questions. They had offered during the negotiation, during a time when we had several questions right at the very beginning, they actually provided a conference call and brought in 9 of their professional resources to answer any question on any topic essentially that we had. And they have just been very engaging through the whole process. And we do feel like, even though it will of course be a slight disruption moving carriers, with the fact that I do believe that their customer service will continue as it has been presented so far. But if we do not show an increase to the employees and keep the cost disruption to a minimum, then that will be an easier transition for our employees.
And they're, I guess, accepted the hospitals and doctors around here all.
Absolutely,
So-
yes. They were very comparative to Cigna and all of our current carriers.
I think we only had like one dentist or something other that wasn't in the group.
But you picked up others.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
picked up 2 or 3 more.
Yes.
Yeah, there was only one thing, so.
What about the tiered drugs? I think I read it in the email, but that y'all sent, I've slept once or twice since then. That was
Yes.
all worked out to where they had the cap on them, and that's included in this price.
It is,
Okay.
yes.
they
They
match
agreed
that.
to
They
the
match, yeah.
10-4 tier 4 cap and with up to a $300 cap.
Yeah, that's what I thought I read. I just wanted to double check.
We were actually negative numbers to begin with until we did that, and then that got us to that one, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in my research, our company, we have a health insurance, well, a benefits division, and I would never bid on this conflict of interest, but I do lean on our HR and staff to get feedback on options and of what we've been presented. And the feedback was very positive of the Humana, the feedback we have from clients. the thing that I like, and Christy's done a phenomenal job of being proactive. The only way we ever get true control over our health insurance cost is to have a proactive approach and try to mitigate issues before they pop up and try to catch things before it blows up. And Humana has a program, their wellness program is known by all over, and a lot of other carriers actually buy into that to use it for themselves. And so they set the pace when it comes to mitigating on the front end, being proactive with trying to address issues. And so you're already doing that process. And I think that just adds more to ammunition to your arsenal there to continue that and further mitigate future increases that we have.
Other questions, comments for Christie?
I just want to thank her for all the hard work she has done with this. And it seems almost seamless, but I know it's not been. But that's
Not as
made it
much on
better
my
for
side, but
us.
I appreciate that y'all see it. that
Yes,
way.
it's, you've done a great job.
Thank you. guys.
Thank you. Chris. Oh, go ahead.
I make a motion that we move forward with moving to Humana for current term, maintain our current employee match of 80/20. Take the premium holiday full amount, apply the $187,268.40 to the
bank.
Well, no, that would be to cover the current change, and then we would bank into a designated account for next year's renewal, $146,454.60. And that would, we would furthermore remain, I think you said, with Right Way for the teledoc services and the other services that they provide.
Yes, sir.
Okay, heard the motion from Commissioner Gaines. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dooley. Discussion?
This is no cost increase to employees.
Correct. Isn't that
Okay, I just
wonderful?
wanted to verify that.
Yep. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And Humana is approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration of A&E Services War Hill Park Master Plan and Environmental Assessment. Matt presented that to us. As you know, we have to kind of follow what the Corps wants us to do when it comes to that, and that requires environmental assessment. We're already going to be doing a master plan update, so this kind of encompasses it all at once. That's $124,300 that he's requesting, and that would come from general fund if you are inclined to approve that. So any other information needed?
Run through his budget in it, run through his budget and then.
Well, it come from general fund. It come from fund balance.
It wasn't budgeted,
It's not budgeted.
Okay.
Come from fund balance.
and we really don't have any option if we want to continue our.
Glamping.
Yeah.
So we want to keep doing what we're doing, we'll have to do it.
And the bulk of it's the environmental study that we won't have to do again if we want to change anything in the
Exactly.
future. Because they're doing it over the whole property, the way I understand it. So if we
Yeah.
wanted to, it would just be a master plan change,
Yep.
and we wouldn't have to incur that cost.
And we,
And we would recoup a lot of that cost through the glamping and things
Some
like
of the
that,
other-
that we
yeah.
would get over time if we continue down that pathway, which we've already approved.
Well, that
we
part stays.
have on Splosh, the part or the trail system out there.
That, and the other repairs that we have to do down there. Yeah. The only way we can do those is with this environmental study and the
That
master
part
plan.
makes money.
And that part will make us some money. All right, so it's $124,300 is the request. That would come from fund balance. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration of board appointments. If it's okay with you, we'll entertain all three of these at the same time. Okay. All right, Tom Harder, reappointment term July 2022 through June 2026. That's the library board. Catherine Reagan Smith, term July 22 through June 2026, also library board. Fred Meyer replacing Don Cargile, term July 2022 through June 2024, also library board. What's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve all three appointments.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Dooley.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And they are all approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration of annexation C 220061. Sharon, are you going to speak to that, or is council going to speak to that? I know we,
Well, I have spoke with, as well as the memo in your backup, Paul Fricky and I did discuss it, and we found no issues that would be of county concern. That's why I did such a minimal memo. They're internal lots to a plat that was recorded.
yeah, I looked
back
at
in-
it. I didn't see
yeah,
anything
back
that
in the
would be,
nineties, so it was
yeah.
very straightforward.
You got anything to add?
No, and also it appears that they're maintaining the same zoning designation from county to city. And so typically we're concerned if there's a land use change
Yes,
and there's not here.
that's good.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Do we vote on it?
We don't
or
have
is
to
it
vote on it.
No,
information?
it can be simply informational only.
Information.
Okay,
since
so we don't have to
have
vote on
an
that. All right, so we'll look at the other one, consideration of annexation C 22006162.
And they're really. both
Basically
in
the same thing.
Yes.
You looked at them closely, yes, there's not much difference in that, and so unless the board has any objection, we have no vote on that as well. No objection? No objection, all right.
One's my preacher, I already object just.
I think you should.
Well, you go back and tell us you did anyway. All right, no one signed up for public comment in this section, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.